so we are recording now. Can you just confirm your name, please?
My name is MD Shafiuddin Jihad.
Thank you very much. This is your advocacy formative. You have 15 minutes maximum, so you're not required to finish in that time, but I will stop you if you're still going after 15 minutes. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. I wish you the best of luck. When you're ready, please begin, and I will start the clock.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, please go ahead.
May I please the court, I appear on behalf of the defendant, Elm Care House Care Home Limited, and my learned friend, Mr. O'Leary, appears on behalf of the claimant, Mrs. Williams. Before I proceed further, may I ask the court whether the court has the relevant documentation before it, including my skeleton argument and the bundle of authorities, and whether the court had the opportunity to read the documents?
Yes, I have. Thank you.
I'm grateful, Judge. Judge, in reference to paragraph 1 of my skeleton argument, this is an application made on behalf of the defendant to set aside a default judgment entered by the claimant on 25th September 2022. Judge, the factual background of the case are set out from paragraph 4 of my skeleton argument. May I assist the court with any summary of facts or the procedural history?
No, that's not required. Thank you.
I'm grateful, Judge. Judge, the structure that I intend to set out for this application is that I will first outline the test for setting aside the safe default judgment, which is mentioned under CPR 13.3 and CPR 3.9. Then I will move on to consider my main part of the submission, which are divided into 3 main parts. Judge, the relevant test for setting aside default judgment has been set out from paragraph 8 of my skeleton argument. Would the court like me to read out the test?
Just summarize it for me, please.
I'm grateful, Judge. Judge, CPR 13.3 provides that the court may set aside or vary a default judgment entered under Part 12 if the defendant has a real prospect of successfully defending the claim, and whether the defendant made this application for setting aside the default judgment made the application promptly. Judge, once the court has considered the defendant's application under 13.3 of the CPR, the court must then, by reason of sanctions imposed upon the defendant, go on to consider the principles laid down in the case of Denton and T.H. White under CPR 3.9. Namely, the court must first identify and assess whether assess the significance and the seriousness of the breach, and if the court is not satisfied, if satisfied that that the breach done by the defendant is serious or significant, then the court will go on to consider why the default occurred, and the court will also take into account the relevant circumstances of the case. Judge, as previously mentioned and submitted to the court, that my main submission is divided into 3 main parts. The 3 main parts are as following. First, Judge, I will set out why the defendant has a real prospect of successfully defending the claim. Secondly, that this application for setting aside the default judgment has been made promptly. Finally, Judge, I will also submit that I will also discuss the 3 factors mentioned in the case of Denton and T.H. White, which the court must consider while granting any relief from sanctions. Judge, my first submission is that the defendant has a real prospect of successfully defending the claim.
Before you get on to the substance of that submission, what is meant by real prospect? Can you give me any guidance?
Yes, Judge. It is mentioned in paragraph 22 and from 22 of my skeleton argument.
Yes.
That also, which is mentioned in the volume 1 of the White Book under part 24.2.3, that the real prospect is a realistic prospect, that the defendant has a realistic prospect of success as opposed to a fanciful prospect of success, and a realistic claim is one that carries some degree of conviction, and this means a claim that is more than merely arguable. as mentioned by in the case of ED and F, Man Liquid Products Limited and Patel.
Thank you. Please carry on.
I'm grateful, Judge. Judge, as you may recall, I was addressing the first part of the submission, which is that the defendant has a real prospect of successfully defending the claim. Judge, from paragraph 11 of my skeleton argument, I have outlined and set out the reasoning and the reasons why the defendant has a real prospect of successfully defending the claim. I will deal with each reason one by one. Judge, pursuant to the first reason, if may I direct the court to paragraph 11 of my skeleton argument,
yes.
It can be seen that the defendant is considered to be an occupier under section 2, subsection 1 of the Occupiers Liability Contribution Act 1957, and owes his duty to the claimant and all his visitors, and which is not denied by the defendant. However, may I ask the court to look at paragraph 9 of exhibits SC 1 to 4, which is the witness statement of Mrs. Chaudhary.
So do you want me to go to the statement first or the exhibits?
The statement of Mrs. Chaudhary.
Yes.
Yes, witness statement. Judge will see that the defendant, as soon as being encountered by the spillage on the floor, immediately placed a yellow A-frame wet floor sign right next to the spillage on the floor, and so that anyone crossing the corridor could easily identify the wet floor and are able to move through the corridor cautiously, knowing that the floor is wet. May I ask the court to look at exhibit SC2?
Yes, I have that one.
Judge, this exhibit is important because it is the plan of the first floor main corridor of the defendant's premises. Judge will see that the X showing in front of room 6 is the place of the spillage, and anyone, including the claimant, approaching from the stairs or the lift could easily identify the yellow A-frame wet floor sign, which was placed by the defendant in the X-signed place. Judge, in paragraph 13 of my skeleton argument, it is mentioned, and I also submit, that the defendant in the present scenario has not fallen below the standard of a reasonable occupier under section 2, subsection 2 of the Occupiers Liability Contribution Act 1957, because the defendant had taken necessary steps to keep the premises reasonably safe by utilizing the resources available to the defendant, such as placing the yellow A-frame wet floor sign available to the defendant, as has been indicated in the case of Laverton and Kia Pasha by Lady Hill.
It's actually the Occupiers Liability Act, isn't it? There's no word contribution in the title.
Judge, may I ask you to rephrase the...
Oh, I just observed in paragraph 11 of your skeleton, I think it's the incorrect name of the statute. It's not the Occupiers Liability Contribution Act. It's just the Occupiers Liability Act, isn't it? Would you accept that?
I apologize, yes. It is the Occupiers Liability Act.
That's fine. No, don't worry about it. I just spotted it. Sorry to interrupt your flow.
I'm grateful, Judge. Judge, as you may recall, I was giving a reason why the defendant has a real prospect of successfully defending the claim. May I direct you to paragraph 13, as I was addressing to the court, that the defendant took reasonable steps. Judge, pursuant to this was my first reason, and I will move on to my second reason why the defendant has a real prospect of successfully defending the claim. Judge, in reference to paragraph 14 of my skeleton argument, I submit that section 2, subsection 4A of the 1957 Act, Occupiers Liability Act, requires an occupier to provide warnings so as to make the premises reasonably safe for visitors. Judge, as previously submitted to the court, that the defendant did give a yellow A-frame wet floor sign, which can clearly be considered as a warning for the purposes of section 2, subsection 4A of the 1957 Act. and thus amounting to a warning that ensures reasonable safety for the claimant and other visitors of the defendant's premises. Judge will see at paragraph 8 of the witness statement of the claimant. The claimant in that paragraph has confirmed that a yellow A-frame wet floor sign was indeed there when the claimant fell down in the floor, and there is no doubt as to the existence of the warning. Therefore, Judge, the claimant did give a warning pursuant to Section 2, subsection 4A of the Occupiers Liability Act. Judge, pursuant to my third reason why the defendant has a real prospect of successfully defending the claim, I would like to direct the court to Exhibit SC3.
Yes, I apologise. There are two SC3s, aren't there? Do you mean the first one or the second one?
The judge, which shows the extract from the cleaning policy of the defendant.
Yes, so that's the second one. Right.
I'm grateful, Judge. Judge, the policy requires the staff to respond to spillages by immediately placing a yellow A-frame wet floor sign right next to the spillage, and so that right next to the spillage, and if possible, block the area. And the staff must also gather the cleaning materials from the kitchen and then clean the spillage. Judge, in compliance with this requirement, the defendant's cleaning policy, the defendant acted immediately and placed a yellow A-frame wet floor sign. However, Judge, the defendant could not fulfill the second requirement of the policy, which requires the defendant to clean the spillage in the floor, because this was due to an emergency, which has been reflected by the defendant in paragraph 10 of the witness statement of Mrs. Chaudhary. May I ask the judge to please look at paragraph 10 of this witness statement of Mrs. Chaudhary. Paragraph 10, Judge.
Yes, I have that.
Judge, in that paragraph, the defendant mentions that a patient had fallen in the shower in one of the floors of the building, and which required the urgent attention and assistance from the claimant, and later on the defendant had to call an ambulance for the patient, and in the meantime about an hour had passed, and when the defendant came to the after considering all the issues, the defendant came to office and then realized that the claimant had fallen and slipped in the spillage, and later on picked by her husband. And this has been recorded in Exhibit SC3, which is the record of the accident, which has also been mentioned in paragraph 17 of my skeleton argument, Judge.
If I could just ask you, going back to the extract from the policy, the second SC3, I follow what you're saying. It says staff must immediately place a yellow A-frame wet floor sign near to the spillage. That was done, I accept that. What about the second bit, and block off the area from use if possible? It does not look to me that the area was blocked off. What do you say about that?
Judge, the area, as I have mentioned to you, that the spillage was in place right next to room 6, and it was the corridor where nurses, the care home employees, and the patients used to walk, and it is not entirely possible to block the area, because patients, including the employees, had to be there to access the rooms of the other patients. This is the reason why the area was not blocked.
I follow that. Thank you.
I'm grateful, Judge. As you may recall, Judge, I was addressing one of the reasons why the defendant has a real prospect of successfully defending the claim. Judge, pursuant to my fourth reason why the defendant has a real prospect of successfully defending the claim, I would address the judge to request to look at Exhibit SC1.
Yes, I have that.
Judge, this is a checklist which was carried out by the duty manager who was in the night shift.
All right, I will have to stop you.